Who wants to be a game developer? I'm Jason. Welcome to the X8 Lab. Let's take a deep dive into planning and creating in the Godot game engine. Today we're going to be reviewing a lot of the basics in getting into game development. We're going to set up the environment and a variety of other things like sourcing your own game assets and many other things. This is the planning phase. This is just an overview of what's going to happen today in this video. So we're going to learn to source our game assets. We'll start off with the basic overview of licensing, what you can and can't get. We're going to make sure you can give proper credit, so things like movies, when you do that, you'll see how to do that. You're going to see the introduction to the game engine, so you'll create a project, you'll start understanding the user interface, we'll also import the assets, setting up project structure, and also learning how Godot handles objects and creating an object to display. So we'll start off by what are licenses? A license is a permission. You could think of it like a key. So if you create something, this key allows you to enter that. Normally it's used to keep control, so things like proprietary licenses. If you create art, you don't want your art taken. It allows you to share it with rules. So say you create something you want everyone to use, but you want to make sure that you are credited for it. A license would allow you to do that and be legally protected. It also allows you to block copying. Stuff like OpenAI, how they have their AI, it's protected by a license. So if somebody were to get their hands on the code for it, they would not be allowed to copy, share, or do anything with it because OpenAI is legally protected. With software licensing, there's three main ones you can look at. MIT is the open, so you can use, you can modify, you can distribute, you can even use it in commercial games or share it around. The same kind of falls in line with the GPL license. That just stands for General Public License. Same rules, except you have to make sure that people can access your code. Then you have the permissive licenses. This is Apache 2.0, BSD, your Creative Commons 0. These are all licenses that can have certain conditions to them. So if you use it, you'll have to make sure you read up on whether they want you to share it, whether the government can use it, whether people can use it. Normally, these just have special rules that you'll have to check out individually. But anything that's labeled MIT, you're good to use. Anything that's GPL, you are good to use. Just make sure that you share your code. So on and so forth. Then there's artwork licensing. Artwork has its own set of rules, but you'll see that they kind of follow the same CC rule. So CC0 is no rights reserved. This is pretty much public domain, so if it's on the internet, you can take it, use it, publish it, commercialize it. With CC BY, kind of like GPL, you must credit the creator. You don't have to share it in the same way you do with software, but you must make sure that the creator has their credit. And then CC BY SA, it's credit and share anything alike. Basically, if you edit the image or you do any changes to it, you still have to credit the creator. In CC BY, depending on how much you edit it, you don't have to cite the creator originally. With CC BY SA, you have to, no matter what, no matter how many changes you make to it. And then there's CC BY NC. This just means there's no commercial use. So if you wanted to, you could use it for personal projects, but you would not be able to publish it and make money off of it. Some examples of ensuring proper credit is with software. So in software, normally you have all your files created, and in there you'll have a license.txt or however they do it. Normally it's a TXT. Sometimes it's a README, sometimes it's just a variety of other files. But all it is just saying what your license is. With art, normally you have a credit scene. Kind of like how in movies you have the long scrolling list of credits, kind of like in Star Wars. That's just connecting, hey, this person made this person made that, and so on and so forth. There's a couple different places to source assets, and assets are just the things that are in your game or software. So things like art, music, sound. Here's some great places to source some. itch.io is popular for both paid and free assets. And then OpenGameArt, it's a great place for free assets in general. Each of them will show you their licenses, so when you're looking at it, you can see if it falls into MIT or so on and so forth. There's a couple other ones, but these are the two that I would recommend. Now, for our game engine, what is Godot? Godot is a free and open source game engine. So that just means you can do pretty much anything you want with it. If you wanted to make software with it and publish it and make money off of it, you can. If you wanted to repackage the engine and make money off of that, you can. There are many cases where that has happened. Open source, in a nutshell, just means you can do whatever you want with it. So what's been made in Godot, if it's so great? So I got 3 examples here. Your Only Move is Hustle, Slay the Spire 2, and Dome Keeper. If you don't recognize those names, that's fine. These are just popular. I got a couple examples that move around. Yomi Hustle is a fighting game. Slay the Spire 2 is a turn-based roguelite, and Dome Keeper is a idle defense. So our first steps are we're going to open up the game engine. So normally you can just download this from Microsoft Store, the App Store on a MacBook. You could also just go to their website, use their web editor. You could also just download it from Godot. There's many different places to source Godot. Their official website's the best place to go. When you have it downloaded, you can just launch it, and you'll be greeted with the project management screen. The project management screen is where you can create, delete, and edit different projects. We're going to go ahead and start by creating a project, and to do this we can hit the Create New Project button, and there's 2 spots for it. The main one, when you first open it, is going to be in that giant blank space area just labeled Create New Project. Otherwise, in the top left, there is an option for Create. When you click that, you'll be prompted with a new menu. This menu is where you can do your project name, where you want it to be saved, and how you want it to render things. But we're going to get through that individually. So we're going to go ahead and start with the project name. This is where you can set the name of your project. If you don't have a specific game idea in mind, I recommend just putting your name. You can always change this later. Next is our project path. This is where our game is saved. If you've just installed it, you are good to just kind of keep it in default. The main thing you want to check is create a folder. You want to make sure that is showing blue. It's got a little toggle. If you have anywhere specifically that you want to save it, this is where you would do that. Next thing we need to do is we need to ensure that it's in compatibility mode, because we don't necessarily know what platform we want to develop for yet. So forward plus would be for desktop platforms. So if you have a gaming computer, this is what you would click. If you want to develop for the phone specifically, you can select mobile. But if you want to develop for both, I recommend you click compatibility. This can be changed in the future, but it's easier to select this at the beginning of your project. That way as you can choose later. And compatibility is that 3rd option in the renderer. So, next thing we can do is make sure we click Edit Now. This basically means when we hit Create, it will automatically launch our development environment. This is where we can actually start doing things. So, go ahead and hit Create, which is that bottom right button. And once it loads, you'll see the desktop environment. Now, there's a lot to this, and we're going to go ahead and look at them individually. That way we're not going to overwhelm you. So starting in the bottom left, we're going to look at the file system. This is where everything for your project is stored. So all your art, all your music, all your sounds, anything that you create with programming will end up in here. Pretty much everything that your game needs to look the part will exist in the file system. Next part we'll look at is the scene tree, and that is above the file system. So let's go look at it. So the scene system is where you store objects, where you create objects, and in Godot we call these nodes. So if you were to create a player, that's considered a node. so it is a character node. If you create a block, like in Minecraft, that would be considered a node. Pretty much anything you create is a node. They just have different attributes, properties, so like a player can move, a block cannot. Things like that would be defined in the scene tree, in the scene system. Next, we're going to look at the inspector. The inspector just shows you the properties or attributes of each node. So we talked about the character node a little bit, but looking at the basic Node 2D, what it just means is it's an object that has properties for 2D games. So if you look in this image, you'll see that it's got transform, it's got z-index, visibility, material. All we need to really think about right now is transform. So in 2D games, you have a position. If you're unfamiliar with the coordinate plane, it's got an X and a Y. But what that means is your horizontal position and your vertical position. So transform will allow you to move your object around. And anything with the Node 2D property, you'll be able to move around. So you'll find that the character body 2D, texture 2D, all of those will share that property, so you can move it around in your scene. Continuing on, we're going to look at the toolbar. The toolbar is at the top. This is where you'll see 2D, 3D, script, game, and asset library. This is pretty much you click once and you're good. So we're going to take a quick glance at it. So from here you could click 2D and you'll see that your entire development environment changes because you're no longer working in 3D. If you click script, you'll see that it brings up a scripting page. If you hit game, nothing should appear yet because nothing exists in our game. And if you click asset library, you'll just see a bunch of assets that you could download. Those are great places to look if you need assets as well, especially for programming. But we're going to continue on. That is the basic run-through of the engine, and this is the moment where in the class we would take some time to find some assets, plan out a game, because it's important to plan out a game before you start making a game. If you guys are enjoying the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Let's get back to the lesson. Assets. You'll go to the file system, because the file system is going to hold everything you need. I recommend you right-click the res folder. This is just the spot where everything will be. When you do it, you'll see a bunch of things like new folder, new scene, new script, new resource, so on and so forth. We're going to open in File Manager. And in File Manager, you'll be able to navigate to where you saved your assets. So normally when you download them from the internet, it will be in downloads. And just drag them into the scene. And it's as straightforward as that. And when you first do it, you'll see an icon, you'll see an import, and you'll see a project. Once again, just navigate to where your assets are and drag them in. When you do, you'll see it update in the editor. So you'll see we imported a logo called X8. If you look down there in the file system, you can see that we now have an x8.png available. And this works for pretty much all the assets. The next thing is learning to organize your assets. So if you do have characters, tiles, music, sound, scripts, all of this, I recommend that you separate it all into different parts. So if you have art, I recommend you have an art folder. If you have a global scripts folder, I recommend you just have a global scripts folder. If you have music or sounds, I recommend you separate them out. Learning to organize your assets will help you in development, because when you reference them, you'll be able to know where they are. And ultimately, there is no real set path. This all boils down to your personal preference. So if you like having art and your music together, you are perfectly fine to do that. You just have to make sure you know how you organize it.